Well, hey everyone, and happy Halloween. So I was wondering, would an Italian ghost be a gabagool? No applause, just throw money. In any event, it is I, the player, once again, humbly attempting to substitute for the great Mike Monty. Now, you may know me from my 2020 medical adult film, The Corona Boner. Um,
Okay.
that one was good.
Hey, I like that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I always like that one. So Mike is at the New York Jets game tonight, which we will certainly cover in great detail shortly.
Oh,
But
yeah.
enough of that, my verbal pee caca. I am joined by the iconic, charismatic, at times enigmatic, but never problematic, Jimmy Pharaoh. Jimmy, how are you, my friend?
Never problematic, you
Well,
liar.
I.
What's going on, everybody? Happy Halloween. The only holiday I really like anymore. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah, you got something there, but we may be joined shortly, if not maybe the next show, by the most recent Texan on the planet, ESO Creative, Bruce Butler. But I just mentioned that Mike is at the Meadowlands as we speak, watching our much beloved but very shitty New York Jets against the Houston Texans. Jimmy, I heard that the odds makers they're estimating C.J. Stroud's performance, passing performance in miles, not yards. So I know,
Benny, it's very believable. And what's more amazing to me, if I told you that 8 games into the season this year, with the expectations we had coming in, with the fact that we've added Devontae now, with the fact that Captain Holdout finally came back, you know what I'm saying? All those expectations, that we were better off with Zach Wilson and Robert Saleh. What the hell is going on here?
Wasn't Wilson 4-4?
I think so. I think he was actually 5-4.
Right.
He was one of the weirdest quarterbacks I've ever seen. Because yes, when he was terrible. But he did sometimes get scrappy and win games. He almost beat Mahomes. I know he beat the Texans last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
It's weird. Would you believe we'd be 2-6? I feel bad for Mike that he's going to have to sit through whatever the hell happens tonight. Although it would be like the Jets out of nowhere. Hey, we're gonna play a good game. Gotcha. It's like, oh God, please don't go like 6-11 and ruin a draft pick. Not that we know how to pick anybody anyway.
Right.
But boy, Benny, it's just hopeless. Poor Mike.
I was just gonna say that I know you more than anybody can feel in your soul the misery of being a Jets fan in 2024. Yeah. So I'm gonna take a page out of the book of the late great Rick Rude and say, so what I'd like to have right now is for all you Jets jerk-offs to keep the noise down while I present my list of things that are just as torturous as going to a New York Jets game. So here we go. Here we go. All right. Here we go. And Jimmy, I'll take your comments on each of these. First one I have here is pouring high karate down your pee hole.
My God.
I can't take credit for that. I worked at a place. You know where Adventureland is in Farmingdale, right?
Yes, on Long Island, correct?
Yeah, I worked at a place called Promotion Mail Associates, right on Smith Street, right down the block from Adventureland. And I worked with this older guy who always had stories. And I was 17, senior in high school, and he told me the story of how he had a date. And he thought he was going to get lucky, as in a blizzo jizzob, and he wanted to make sure that he's clean. So he took a shower, and he said, just to make sure, I poured high karate down my pee hole. He said that people like on the next block heard him scream.
Somebody actually really tried to do this to themselves?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
the human race gets dumber and dumber by the millisecond.
Well, this was
why do I
probably
keep hearing Benny? Why do I keep hearing the song from Deep Purple, "Burn"? Why am I hearing that?
Or "Burn, Baby, Burn"? Yeah. All right. Also, here's the next one: having to eat at an all-you-can-eat buffet for 6 months, 3 meals a day, where the only item on the menu is liver and onions. Comparable,
Bro,
right?
I would starve. I'd starve to death, which is kind of like what it is watching the Jets for half a century.
Right.
You're just like you wither, like you emotionally and physically you wither from the Jet experience year after year after year. Then you realize you've been watching this bad rerun for half a century. Once you get up into where we are, right, Benny? Half a
Absolutely.
century. For God's sakes, we've been what is wrong with
We're going to
you
get into that in
and
more
me?
detail a little bit too. So another one is having
Ugh.
to sleep to an endless loop of Paul Anka's "You're Having My Baby." You're old enough to remember that, right, Jimmy?
No, but I know the song. It wasn't like spinning when I was going to junior high and high school. For God's sakes, I had
came out
Iron Maiden was going on, bro.
summer of 1974. I remember it
Well,
well.
that makes sense. That makes sense for you. It was a high school
He,
college thing. Very
you know,
interesting.
everybody has their their favorite songs of all time,
Right.
and their
Right.
worst. That one, that
one.
and Muskrat Love are 1 and 1A.
Muskrat Love.
Yeah.
Really? Oh, by the way, Karen McDaniel just chimed in that she loves liver and onions. Oh, great. Well, one of us would be eating. I wouldn't be. I'd starve. I'd starve to death, Benny.
She'd love it. She'd love that buffet then.
Oh, for God's sake. 3 times a day for how long?
6 months.
6 months. Liver and onions. Boy, oh boy.
That's the equivalent of going to a Jets game. Now, instead, the other torturous item, instead of listening to an endless loop of Paul Anka's having my baby, is actually having Paul Anka's baby.
Hey, wait a minute. I'd have to have a transitional change, and I refuse.
Yeah. How about this one, Jimmy? Anal oozing.
What?
Anal oozing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's comparative. Yeah.
I mean,
that's
all
fair.
these commercials on TV about these drugs, side effects may include, and anal oozing is about 1 out of every 3. Thoughts of suicide, bleeding from the eyes. What else?
I'm thinking of the butt fumble and I'm bleeding from the eyes. I'm thinking about the fake spike and there was some thoughts of football suicide going on. Everything here is quite accurate when you're a Jets fan. It's just spot on.
Oozing, I think I'll stick with the head cold and see where that leads me. I'll pass on the anal oozing.
All you ever do is get killed that way.
Last but certainly not least,
oh God,
is rubbing Rosie O'Donnell's ass with baby oil. But can I revise that to Crisco?
Oh God. I am not doing. You know what? We found something worse than the Jets. Well done, Penny.
Thank you.
That's worse than the Jets. No, I'm sorry. I'm not doing that. We still have Joe Namath trotting off the field, right? So,
hey man, I will never forget that. I mean,
it's a shame. I told you I wasn't only like a year and 3 months old, bro, and I have to count it. I'm sorry. I was on the planet, Benny. Help me out here. I was alive. I was alive when it happened, but the fact that you got to see it as a teenager, that had to be just irreplaceable memory, I would assume, right?
When he guaranteed the win, it's like, oh crap. I mean, because I knew what a team the Colts were a phenomenal team. I mean,
right.
The Jets just, it was Joe. Joe was magic that day.
I'm assuming you were in high school at that point, or correct?
No, I was in
junior high.
I was, I guess, technically a freshman. I was still in junior high, but junior high went to ninth grade.
Right. Were all the kids into the Jets that year? Was everybody watching the game every Sunday?
Yeah. I mean, yes, absolutely. Long Island. Cool. Yep. Because remember back then, 74. I mean, that's 69 rather. The Giants were not very good, if I remember.
They were definitely on the downturn. Even when they opened up Giant Stadium, they suffered for several years before
those were the days of Pete Gogolak. Who else? Bob Timberlake, maybe Justin's dad. Not a very good team. So the Jets were it.
John Mendenhall.
Yeah, there you go. Ron Johnson. Actually, Ron Johnson.
Ron Johnson was good. Hey, what about the guy who was good? Brad Van Pelt, the linebacker for the Giants. He was good.
Yeah, no, he was good. Yeah, they had some good players.
Yep, they just had some really off years. But it's when Lawrence Taylor shows up and that kid from Morehead State, because nobody knew anything about the kid from Morehead State, and I'm talking about Phil Simms. Bill Parcells was on that staff. Once you look, everything fell into place for them. Lawrence Taylor shows up. Look, the greatest linebacker of all time shows up. So,
yep.
You stepped in it. Mazel tov.
But Jimmy, we got to get to this. We're going to
Sure.
talk about the Yankees and the World Series, and then
Mm-hmm.
we're going to talk about the futility in general of being a New York sports fan. But
Oh,
what'd you think of the series? We were talking about it before the show.
well, it was very obviously as a Yankee fan, it's very disappointing. Uh, I agree with Derek Jeter. He was asked on an interview, it's an accomplishment. Like he was talking about 2001 and 2003, where the Yankees, had faced the Marlins, and before that the Diamondbacks. And he said, well, the interviewer was saying, 2001, 2003, it's a great accomplishment. And Jeter immediately cuts him off. He's like, what did you accomplish? You lost.
Right.
And that's the reason why Derek Jeter has 5 rings. They did wind up, it took several years later, but, to win another championship. But Jeter did get the one for the thumb, didn't he? He wound up with 5 of them.
Yes, sir.
And he didn't feel that getting to the World Series was enough. We were lucky to get to the World Series this year because everything fell right for us. The Astros were out of the way, correct? You know what I'm saying?
Astros and the Orioles, which was our arch nemesis this year.
Right, right. Who have been proven to be the problem, and they were out of our way. So logically, we made it to the World Series. But you see what a champion does, and you see what a very good team does that can't get it done in the clutch. And unfortunately, the latter is the New York Yankees. They overmanaged in Game 1. It was absolutely ridiculous to take Garrett Cole out. But you know what? I also feel it's a little on Garrett Cole. I would be like yelling at Aaron Boone. You're not taking me out. You are not taking me out, man. I've only had 88 pitches. I'm not coming out. Who was it? Mike Mussina who just pointed at Torrey to turn around and go back to the dugout, and Joe.
Absolutely 100%. And
Yeah,
Torrey
and
went
Joe
right back in the
respected it
dugout.
too. Joe respected it too because it was
Yep.
Mussina talking. Garrett Cole, I would think, has that sort of authority at this point in his career. He's a veteran. He's a great one too, and he's pitching great. I would have been like, bro, you're not taking me out. You're not. Roger Clemens got killed for that in '86. You remember when they took Roger out? Roger was still going good,
Right.
and Roger's taking the fall for it. I don't agree. Roger doesn't agree. Publicly he's like, I didn't want to be taken out. I didn't agree with it. The manager made the decision. He's like, I didn't like it. It shouldn't have happened. He overmanaged. He should have let Cole stay in, and then of course poor Cortez, who hadn't seen a batter in what'd you say, Benny? 37 games.
37 days was it? Yeah.
37 days. Jesus God! And you want him to pitch to who? And you don't think nothing's going to go wrong?
Right.
I mean, Freddie Freeman is so clutch too, by the way.
Yeah, great ball player.
Sick as it makes me to say, the Dodgers deserved it. As a New Yorker, it makes me sick to say, but the truth is the truth.
No, they absolutely do.
They absolutely deserved it. They're a great team, and they have great players, and they were able to pull it off and we made it easy for them to pull it off. We had the paralysis by analysis manager, and then we can't catch fly balls, and our best hitter can't hit, and it didn't add up in the end, right, Ben? Oh, yeah. Well.
We were talking about Bob Gibson before I was that probably the most clutch World Series pitcher ever. I think we played in the 64, 67, and 68 World Series, won 2 of them. They won 2 of the series. Nine starts, I believe 9 complete games, 7 wins, I think 2 shutouts. And, I can only imagine if Red Schoendienst trotted out to the mound and said, okay, Bobby, threw 99 pitches, time to go. And they would have to they would rename him Dead Schoendienst.
Yeah, and who it reminds me of, and it doesn't get talked enough about at all, because after all, it's Roger Clemens. What you just said about Gibson, if I'm not mistaken, Clemens, who pitched in the 99, 2000, 2001, and 2003 World Series, never lost a World Series game for the Yankees. I don't believe he did. I think it's something that, doesn't get mentioned enough. Roger Clemens in the World Series for the New York Yankees was nothing but a problem for the other side. Nothing but a problem. He should have been the MVP in 2001 after Soriano put them up. We all know what happened when Mariano threw the ball into center field. You know what I'm saying?
I still have nightmares of that game.
Right. Right. But Roger Clemens was in position to be the World Series MVP that year.
Right.
People don't really appreciate what Roger brought to the Yankees because he was, at the end of the day, 4 pennants, 2 championships, and he never. I don't believe he ever lost a World Series game. David Wells, who's beloved, never won a World Series game. Did you know that?
No,
So
I
it's
know that
very interesting to
he
me.
made a lot
Very
of money on
interesting.
Babe Ruth's hat, though.
Hey, listen, David Wells was a great Yankee. I'm not saying he wasn't for the seasons and his contributions. We love him. But I do remember in the postseason because I remember, don't forget how Clemens got to the Yankees. Who was he traded for? David Wells.
Right.
So, fellow New Yorkers, I was arguing pro Clemens. I was like, no, this is a no brainer. But there were actual Yankee fans going, oh, how could you trade David Wells for Roger Clemens, that piece of shit, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, are you kidding me? You really think that David Wells is better than Roger Clemens? I mean, whatever you're smoking, can I have some?
Yeah.
Because David Wells was a very good pitcher, but Roger Clemens was one of the greatest pitchers that ever pitched.
If I'm on the Sandlot and we're choosing sides, I'm picking Clemens.
Clemens probably would have. I hate to say it, but Clemens probably would have banged show it to Altani right in the helmet, right off the right off the bat. Send a message and start a brawl. Can you see Clemens doing that? I can see Clemens doing that.
100%. Yep.
There were no Paul O'Neills on this team, by the way, this year. You know that, right? There's no Paul. There's no Paul O'Neill in the locker room with the urgency and the oh my God, we're fucking up. We've got to fix this, or I'm going to kill the water cooler, or Posada screaming at everybody. There's none of that.
Yeah, go back a little bit further, Jimmy, and we've talked about these guys so many times. How about a Nettles? You think a Nettles in that dugout wouldn't have, been kicking people's asses?
No, Greg was very serious. Hey, Greg stepped on George Brett's head. You know what I'm saying?
Right. or Munson, the captain of the Yankees. You think he's going to,
No. Munson was the one who went right up to Reggie right off the bat and said, hey, you got to do laps, man. You know how that all started, don't you? With Thurman and Reggie.
Throw me in.
Well, Reggie comes in for his first, preseason, spring training game. He's been signed by the Yankees to this, at the time, enormous contract. When we look at it today, it's probably one at bat for Otani.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. But Reggie comes in, first spring training game, and the first thing that the Yankees would all do, and they would do laps. And Munson would lead the way, and the whole team would do laps. They'd run around. For how many times, I don't know, but that was the deal. That's what they'd start with. Reggie comes out, and Dick Hauser is over by the batting cage, and Reggie just sees everybody running, and he goes to Dick Hauser, and he goes, hey, Dick, can I just get my swings? And Dick Hauser is just, okay, And Munson sees this, didn't like it, walks over to Reggie, he's like, hey, we do laps here before we hit. And then Reggie just turned around and looked at him. He said, well, coach says I can, and just walked right up to the plate, started swinging.
Wow.
So that's where their overhyped, rivalry began. It got much worse, as you know, but that was the first clash before they became friends in the end.
Yeah, but they both wanted to win.
Oh
different
my God.
personalities, but that's what they were all about: winning.
Yeah.
Same thing with O'Neill. Paul O'Neill on that team this year. We're talking a different story. They're still playing.
Well, they could be, but you know what? When your best hitter is not hitting at all, I mean, it's been proven. Like Winfield was supposed to be as good as Jackson, and they only got to play together one season. And they got to the World Series, and Winfield went 1 for 22, and Reggie hit 3-something. It didn't help Reggie. They lost.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we could say all the what-ifs in the world. Aaron Judge hit like shit, let us down in the field, had a horrendous World Series. He gets an F. I hate to say it, sorry. The guy who's going to win the MVP this year, and I know that drives Mike crazy because Mike wants to include postseason.
Yeah.
But they've never done that. They've never done that. Maybe they should, but doesn't that eliminate like so many other greats over the years? We should, if you start looking into those, I mean, how many years in the old days did a great player not even get to make the playoffs? Like a Warren Spahn.
But I mean, the end game is to win. I mean,
Right.
There's one team left that wins at the end of the year, don't you? I agree that should be taken into consideration.
Right.
Postseason should count. Why shouldn't it? I mean,
if it does count, then here's the big question. I mean, I wouldn't be upset if they did count. It counted. I mean, to be honest, in 1977, when Rod Carew hits 388 and knocks in 100 runs, it was like his best season. And Reggie Jackson hits 32 home runs, 110 RBIs during the regular year, and hits near 290, 286 or something, and then goes on to do what he did to the Dodgers with the 5 home runs and the 8 RBIs. Does Reggie become the MVP of the American League instead?
I mean, whose team won the series? Who got the ring? Reggie.
It's Reggie,
Right?
Right. But does the MVP, would that always go to the World Series winner then? Are we trying to like establish something?
Well, maybe not, but like, I mean, what he did was so extraordinary. How do you pass him up?
Right. I got you.
Yeah, I mean,
well, in 77, it should have been Reggie. That much,
Yeah.
To me, it felt that it should have been Reggie. But look, they've never done it that way. Pete Rose is gone, and they didn't let him in. You expect the MLB to fix this? They're not going to fix it.
Who said Steinbrenner called Winfield Mr. May? I forgot. I don't know who said that.
Steinbrenner did call Win. Yes, he did.
Somebody just said that in the chat room, but yeah, very, very, very true. I mean, you think if George was still alive, you don't think would Boone's head have rolled by now?
Well, Cashman's head would have rolled by now.
Yeah, at least.
I think
both.
You have to start there. Don't forget, George was alive for the last championship. George passed away in 2010, and the Yankees, when George died, were the defending world champions.
Right.
George would have tolerated probably another 5 years, tops of Cashman with those sorts of results. It was never good enough to not win the World Series. Never. Not for George.
Right.
Not for George Steinbrenner. It was never good enough. George Steinbrenner is the greatest owner that I've ever seen in New York. So everybody calm down. I'm sure you have your favorites and all that.
And he bought the Yankees for $12 million.
Yeah, which, by the way, though, let's be fair, was enormous at the time.
Well, I mean, what is it worth now? Like probably $12 million?
Right. Well, we see where it grew, but it wasn't. It was a large amount at the time. What was considered? It was a decent. He bought him from CBS, right? Yeah, he didn't buy it from Al's Car Wash, although they played like that.
Yeah, Augie's Discount Car Parts. Like they had a BOGO sale. Yeah, give me a carburetor and I throw in the Yankees. What the hell?
Yeah, there was nobody like George. Hal is more of a business guy, a
business manager, right? A money guy.
Yeah, he's a money guy, and that's all fine. But Cashman, for some reason, all these years, and you know what? I've been saying it for years and years. George would have had him out of here a long time ago. I don't know what the Yankees would be right now. I don't know who would be running the Yankees, but it wouldn't be these people. I would tend to think Derek Jeter and Don Mattingly would have been involved, with George. I got to be honest, as far as management and, general manager, I could see Jeter in a general manager kind of role because Jeter wouldn't want to be too much in the public spotlight. He doesn't have to constantly, every single game, travel with the team and stuff like that, And I could see Donnie obviously wanting to be a manager again. I would love to see Don Mattingly manage the Yankees. I don't think Don Mattingly's taking Garrett Cole out. Am I wrong?
No. Yeah, it would make my day if I saw number 23, Donnie Baseball, back in the New York Yankees uniform. That would make.
George was very loyal to those who won for him, and that's just a fact. And he was good to those who struggled. Don't forget, Doc and Darryl, whose numbers, finally were retired over at Citi Field, which I feel should have happened a long time ago because they were both great Mets. But when they were both down and out through drugs and just screwing up their lives, who picked them up? Who picked them up and gave them another shot? Who believed in them? George Steinbrenner was the one who believed in both of them, and they both contributed to rings. So,
yeah,
Steinbrenner was one of a kind. Obviously, I hear Rob Van Dam, one of a kind.
So I got a comment from Gerard Millette, which is kind of a perfect segue into what we're going to talk about next. Yankee fans can finally start to feel what Red Sox fans felt for decades. So, which is a perfect segue into not just the Yankees, but New York sports in general, and the futility of being a New York sports fan. So we already, we beat the Yankees to death as far as not winning since 2009. The most recent championship was, like you said backstage, 2011 Giants, right?
Yeah, that would be the Giants. But to get to what was that, Gerard Millette, you said? Okay, here's the deal. This is the second time that this has happened to me in my life, so I know how it feels to wait. Okay, no, not as long as the Red Sox did. It took them 86 years, nothing like that. This is the second longest duration in between titles for me. Don't forget, the Yankees won in 78, but they did not win again until 1996. You're talking 18 years, okay? In this case, we're on 15 and counting. How long this is going to go, it don't look too good, okay? So that's where I'm at with that, But as far as overall New York sports, it's sickening. Because let's start with the baseball, Manny. The Yankees last time was 15 years ago. The Mets last time was in 1986. How long ago was that, please?
38 years.
Dude, that's a long, long time ago. It's a long time. The VCR was king. Blockbuster Video was king. MTV was like slapping out John Bon Jovi for you.
Crazy Eddie was insane, wasn't he?
Oh, his prices were insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You
but wait, let's go back to the Yankees a bit, Jimmy. You said 2009, right? Before that was 2000, right?
Right.
Now, I mean, so before the dynasty, it was from 78 to what, 96, right?
Yeah. The last championship was in 78, and then they did not win again until 1996.
So that's an 18-year drought. We have a 15-year drought. And before that, it was 62 to 78 because they...
To 77. To 70. So you had
77, I'm sorry, right. So
you had another 15-year drought.
Yeah.
Right. No, Yankee fans have been made to wait.
Yeah.
And it's not in my lifetime. Here's the count, Benny, for me. Here are the top 3 teams that have won the World Series in my lifetime, and the amount of times they have won, if I get this right. The Yankees have won 7 times. The Dodgers have won 4 times in my lifetime, and the Red Sox have won 4 times in my lifetime. Those are the top 3 teams that have won the World Series. It's okay. It sucks that we lost the World Series. I'm not happy about it at all, but I've seen it. I've seen a lot of them. I've seen a lot of championships. I've seen a lot of losses in the World Series. I've seen them both.
Right.
So I'm good to go. The Yankees are the one team that doesn't pain me as much as the rest of the teams if we get to those, No,
I mean, be a Met fan. You got 38 years and counting as a Met fan, right? We talked about the Giants, the Rangers. Thank God for Mark Messier. Thank God for Mike Messier too. He's a good guy.
What did he win? Wait a minute. What did he win? The Dixie Cup?
Who's that? Mike Messier?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He lifted the Dixie Cup. Messier lifted the Stanley Cup. If Messier doesn't do it, he does in 1994. The New York Rangers would be in the middle of an 84-year drought. 1994 wasn't supposed to happen, but Mark Messier was one of those guys we talk about, Benny, that will not take a lose situation for an excuse. He doesn't want any part of a loss. He's miserable if he doesn't win.
That was
somehow Messier delivered, and he made a guarantee like Namath did. Let's not forget that he made a guarantee, and he made it against the Devils in the Eastern Conference Finals. We were down 3-2. We had the best record in the regular season. The Islander fans were chanting 1940, 1940, 1940. And Mark Messier, before Game 6, on the road, says, "We will win tonight." And goes on to get a natural hat trick. Force a Game 7. Rangers win. Rangers get to the Stanley Cup final. Rangers in 7. Who gets the game-winning goal in Game 7? Mark Messier.
That was probably my favorite hockey playoff series ever, that final against Vancouver.
Interesting. To tell you the truth, it was the more dramatic one was the Devils. When the Rangers got to the Stanley Cup Finals, to me, it was like, you better win. And I expected to win. And the Rangers did not make it easy. I don't know how sharply you recall it, but I could definitely tell you the Rangers did not make it easy. The real war was the Rangers and the Devils. Those were the two best teams. And that's why it went to double overtime in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Whoever won that should win the Stanley Cup. So when the Rangers went on to a 3-1 lead in the Stanley Cup Final against Vancouver, of course the Rangers had to lose games 5 and 6.
Right.
What the hell is going on here? 1940, 1940, 1940. We're at home. It's a Game 7. We got 54 years worth of bad luck on our back, and somehow we win the game 3-2, and Messier gets the winning goal, and we get the Stanley Cup. If that doesn't happen, dude, that was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Isn't that the main point of all of this? The Yankees haven't won since 2009. The Mets haven't won since 86. The Rangers haven't won since 94. What about the Islanders?
Islanders,
4 cups in a
83.
row. 4 cups in a row. Haven't
Right.
seen a cup since.
That was it.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, what a dynasty they were for those 4 years. But that's 41 years ago.
Look, as a Ranger fan, it pains me to say it, but that's the greatest damn team that ever played on American soil. I'm not talking about the Montreal Canadiens. I'm talking about teams that played on American soil, whether it was the Red Wings, the Blackhawks, the Flyers from the 70s, the Bruins, whoever, the Rangers. That team from 1980 to 1983, that New York Islander team was the greatest team that ever played on American soil. And it pains me as a Ranger fan, and I'll probably be hated by Ranger fans when I say that, but the truth is the truth. They won like something absurd, like 19 consecutive playoff series over the stretch, whatever it was. It was absurd. Absurd. And don't forget, they almost won a 5th cup. Because
I was going to say, didn't they make it to the finals in 84, I think?
Yeah, they get to the finals, and they lose to Gretzky and Messier.
Edmonton, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Messier. There's that name.
Right.
Because Messier is on his way to winning 5 cups with the Oilers, 4 with Gretzky. By the way, Gretzky leaves the Oilers, and Messier wins another cup without him. Benny, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
The greatest player of all time leaves your team, and you can still lead your team to a Stanley Cup. This is hockey, bro. This isn't ping pong. Messier. Unbelievable. What about basketball?
All right.
What about There's no fun there either.
73, my senior year in high school. And they had, Willis Reed and Jerry Lucas?
Yeah.
Who else? They had the great backcourt, Earl LaPearl and Clyde Frazier. And they had DeBuscher and Bradley, right?
Yeah, they had all of that. And that was Red Holtzman.
Red Holtzman, great coach.
Right.
And again, they had won 4 years earlier. And we thought, man, they're going to be a great team for years to come. And it took 20 years before they became relevant again?
Yeah. You're just about dead on. Right, because that's when Pat Riley comes to New York, and then we have the Ewing Starks Oakley deal. Unfortunately, with the Jordan Pippen Rodman deal.
Right.
So we get nothing. So you got the New York Knicks with over 50 years we've been waiting. And then there's, of course, the Brooklyn Nets, who can't make up their mind because they started off as the New York Nets on Long Island. Then they went to New Jersey. Now they're in Brooklyn. They can't figure out who they are. And they won ABA championships, Benny. And you'd have to go back to 1976 with Dr. J. So how many years is that? That's way too many years.
48. And I was there many times at the Nassau Coliseum.
You saw Dr. J?
Oh, yeah.
What was that like back in the day to watch an ABA game in New York?
Unbelievable.
Really?
I actually went to a couple of games at the Island Garden in West Hempstead. They played there first before they moved to the Coliseum.
Correct.
They moved to the Coliseum, I think, in 1972.
Yep.
I'm trying to think if I believe Rick Barry was still on the team when they moved to the Coliseum.
Right.
That guy, he doesn't get his just due as a great basketball player. What a shooter that guy was.
His free throws were interesting, too.
Oh, yeah. He made them. Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he threw them underhands. Yeah. It was ridiculous.
Dr. J, I remember when I first saw him on the Virginia Squires.
Right.
And I thought,
When he
man,
first started.
if we could get this guy, we'll be unbeatable. And we did, and we were like, what a ball player.
Well, Dr. J was the predecessor to Jordan. I mean, Dr. J had a shoe named after him, period. That's where it really starts, Benny.
Dr. J defied gravity.
Dr. J was the origin of NBA big-time marketing as an individual. Dr. J was sellable. And then he was, after Dr. J, you had Bird and Magic, and everything took off. But the whole business took off because Dr. J started it. Everybody wanted Dr. J sneaker. I think he was Converse or whatever it was. Everybody wanted it. Every kid in my neighborhood wanted it. Dr. J was like Superman, you know, and he was pre-Jordan, and he was what Jordan became. Dr. J was the original big-time business-wise for the NBA to market a player, in my mind.
Then he goes to Philadelphia, and he went. I believe he won at least one championship there.
I want to say 83 or something like that. 1980. I don't know. Early 80s. He managed to do it with George McGinnis, who was also an ABA legend who became an NBA
Pacer.
Right, Hall of Fame. These guys are all Hall of Fame. But again, the ineptitude of the franchises. Look at how long it's been. If you're a fan of New York basketball, it's over half a century. If you're a Knicks fan, if you're a Net fan, you've never won an NBA title, and you've been in the NBA for what, almost 50 years, correct, Benny?
Right. Yeah.
You know, so forget about basketball. Hockey, the Rangers haven't won in 30 years. You got the Islanders haven't won in over. The Islanders haven't won in over 40. So it's a disaster. So forget hockey. So let's just forget about that. We go to football. The Jets haven't won since 1969 when the man was he even on the moon yet? No.
Yeah, no, he was. In fairness. Wait a minute. No, he was not. Nope, because they won in what, January 1969? Yep. It wasn't until 6 months later. You're right.
We weren't even on the moon yet.
We're not on the moon.
It's ridiculous. The Giants haven't won since 2011. All right, that's it. You know, thank God for Eli Manning. I mean, this is a Jet fan talking too, by the way. Boy, I wish I had a guy like Eli Manning. Tom Brady? No problem. Oh, who is this guy? Sign him up.
Yeah. I mean, you don't really think of New York fans as long-suffering, but when we the way we broke it down, I think we are.
Oh, we are. We're totally in the Sahara. And we've been for years. I mean, we have, like, the Yankees threaten to be a good team every year. That's nice. We've got that in New York. The Mets once in a while surprise us. Okay. You know, the Rangers are usually pretty good, but they always fall flat on their face in the playoffs. So it's like, so what?
Yeah, they're chokers.
When you have one cup in 84 years, what do you expect? I'm lucky I saw it. That's how I look at that. So there's your hockey. The Islanders don't spend any money, so they're not going anywhere. There's no hope there. It's 40-plus years and counting. They're not going anywhere. The Knicks are good right now, and that's nice because they've sucked for the last 20. Whenever Ewing left, when Ewing retired, they've sucked ever since, pretty much. So they've been pretty good the last couple of years. But when you're waiting over half a century, do you really expect anything, Benny? I don't.
I hate to say it, but they might be our best bet.
Oh, we're screwed.
For a New York team to win a championship.
Oh, we're screwed. Don't you see how screwed we are?
Yeah.
This is terrible, bro. Terrible.
I totally agree.
And that is why I am so grateful to be a fan of professional wrestling. And Mike and I have been making fun of each other privately on the phone for the last week or so, because at the end of the day, Roman Reigns is the man, and we got to watch him hold the championship for years because we don't win anything in our regular real life sports. So long live professional wrestling. That's that. I can always count on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can always count on it.
Wrestling is like a puppy dog. I mean, you know, a dog never has a bad day. You know, you never come home to a dog that's mad at you.
I've come home mad at the dog, like when they always put Sami Zayn over. I'm pretty mad at the dog, you know.
But I mean, you know, a dog never complains to you. You know, a dog is always glad to see you.
Yes. This is true.
You can count on a dog.
Dogs
don't have bad moods. But speaking of wrestling, let's, you know, and being that it is Halloween.
Okay.
Before we do that, I wanted to give a shout out to the great Tito Santana. Arriba for being our guest on Dan and Benny in the Ring on Tuesday for our 200th episode. We could not have picked a better guest. So I wanted to say thank you to Tito. Tito, he was great. He answered all our questions. He seemed genuinely, happy to be chatting with us. And as much as I want to praise Tito, I want to call out Ken Patera for being an absolute bum for no showing us.
That's rough.
Yeah,
that's rough.
Yep. I chatted with him at Fitzgerald Irish Tavern the Thursday before, and I said, it was 11:42, and I said, Ken, am I a bad person for being at an Irish pub before noon? He says, no, you're a great person. And I thought, okay, we got an instant rapport here, and I booked him and for Tuesday, and gave him a reminder on Tuesday morning, don't forget, blah blah blah. I'll send you the link. I sent him the link at 6:04, 56 minutes before showtime. I get a text, and it says, I have to go to my grandson's tournament. Let's do this. Can we do this tomorrow? It's like WTF.com, .org, .edu, right? .gov. Yeah. I said, all right. Well, okay. And I just had this bad feeling. Again, it did the same thing. Sent him the link again on Wednesday. Dan and I are backstage. Nothing. Or as us Italians say, guts on ghouls, stu guts. And, at 7:02, try to call the number. And nothing. Haven't heard from the guy. So thank you, Tito, because, we postponed we did episode 199.5 that night.
You're right.
Dan and I shooting a breeze, and a half. Yeah. And but no, it was one of my favorite interviews ever. The guy is a bona fide legend. When you think about the guys he beat, he wrestled for the IC title. He beat Morocco and he beat Valentine, lost to Savage. And how many guys he beat during his 2 reigns?
God, I hated him. He was always beating the guys I liked.
So who did he beat that you liked?
Well, first of all, you said Morocco.
Yeah,
I like Morocco.
Yeah.
I've always liked Morocco. Morocco's one of my all-time favorites. It's Mike's fault, too, because it's probably one of Mike's. I can't say anymore where he stands with Mike as far as his ranking, but I know back in the day, Morocco was the shit. Valentine was my favorite, still is. So he was always in the way, but he was very important in like so many different ways. And what I mean by that, it's fair to say, right, Benny, that New York itself was very ethnic. And, Bruno was like the Italian hero. Pedro was the, Latin community hero,
Yeah.
Tito had those shoes to fill. I would have loved to have asked him about this, but Tito had those shoes to fill. Well,
we did ask him, though, Jimmy, because Pedro.
Well, he's talking about me, not you.
Oh, all right. So, but Pedro didn't relate in other territories the way Tito did.
Right.
Pedro went to the AWA after his stint in WWF,
right,
and he did not connect, whereas Tito was over wherever he went.
Right. Tito was a great wrestler too. Let that not be lost. Tito Santana, he's a great person. We've worked with him enough in the past that I could say that for sure. Tito Santana is a great guy. It's funny. A lot of the guys that I loved as a fan before I got to interview them, some of them turned out to be like not so great. As people, I'm like, and then there's the ones that I hated, like Backlund. I hated Tito. And then you get to interview them, and it's like, and meet them. Really? It's like, these guys are awesome.
Salt of the earth, right? Yep.
Yeah, it's weird how that works out. Thank God, like, New Jack and Sabu and Rob Van Dam, because, God, I love ECW. All 3 of those guys have been great. Shane Douglas has been great to us,
Yeah.
But, then you get those weird ones like Scott Hall. Because the first night I met Scott Hall, he was wonderful to me, and he had me come around the table and talking to me while he's signing autographs. He's talking to me about his kid. It's just like Mike is bewildered. He's like, "Wow, Scott Hall really likes you." I'm like, I don't know what. I actually had to cut the conversation short because Scott's got work to do. He's signing autographs.
Sure.
Who the hell am I? But thank you for the conversation. He was awesome. He was great. He was nice enough to want me to come around the table and hang out with him for a while. And then when he actually comes on the show, which was a year or two later, a totally different man. Gets out of the car like, oh, that fucking ride. Oh man, my fucking back, man. Where am I anyway? Like we were like, oh
Where am I?
God. Oh God. We were, we probably were just not, it was in our infancy. I would have loved to have had the chance to talk to him again. I've known Scott Hall both ways.
Right.
Like from the first personal experience, what a wonderful, sweet man. And the second one, who is that?
Yeah.
It's just a totally different person.
Absolutely. So we have a comment from Mike Messier.
Okay, what's up, Mike?
Here he goes.
Is that the Mike Messier?
The Mike Messier. Messier won a cup without Gretzky, but Gretzky never won a cup without Messier.
Right.
But of course, Mark Messier never wrote "fight or play basketball," and you are correct, my friend.
Fight or play basketball. Remember 70s hockey? I still think that's the toughest athlete ever built was the 70s hockey player.
Oh my God, are you kidding me? Like, I mean, all the tough guys: Derek Sanderson, Terry O'Reilly, Schultz. How many? Yeah, Keith Magnuson of the Blackhawks, Tim Horton, all the enforcers.
Yep. But you know who would beat the living crap out of all of them if he felt like it?
Who's that?
Clark Gillies.
Oh God.
Clark Gillies was the one Islander from that dynasty team that I actually loved. Billy Smith, I hated. I thought he was a dirty son of a bitch.
He was a dick.
Goalies could be a dirty son of a bitch back in the day. Good for him, man.
Right. He was a gamer, though. Billy Smith was a gamer.
Of course he was, man. He was as gritty as they come. He was great. He's a Hall of Famer. I hated him, though. I just hated him.
Right.
Look, I'm a Ranger fan, But, man, did I love Clark Gillies. He felt like the complete player to me, kind of like in a way that Messier could be at times. When you can do the old Gordie Howe thing, what was it? Gag, goal, a game, a goal or an assist or a fight. You could count on Clark Gillies to score goals, do assists because he was a great team player, and he would beat the hell out of somebody, and only if they asked for it, if they deserved it. That's what I like most about Gillies.
Ask Dave. I don't know if Dave Schultz is still around, but ask him.
Right. Yeah,
he made the mistake of picking a fight with Gillies. Gillies knocked him out with one punch.
Yep.
And he grabbed his jersey so he wouldn't go down.
Right.
So he could get it like 2 or 3 more, and then he just let him drop.
Right. But Gillies would never instigate the fight.
No, but he sure finished them.
He sure did. That's what I liked about Gillies, because Gillies to me was a fearless leader. He was great, And as much as I disliked Dennis Potvin, I knew what a great leader he was. That team was amazing.
Yeah,
it was pure torture for me. Pure torture. I'm in junior high during these years, junior high into high school. God, I'm getting killed as a Ranger fan. I'm getting killed. I live on Long Island. What kind of traitor am I? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh God, it was brutal. That team was great. They smacked the Rangers
I went to the
around.
very first Ranger Islander game at the Coliseum, and it was actually close. The Rangers won 2-1. It was sometime in '72.
Oh, the Rangers were great.
They won 12. They won 12 games that year, didn't they? The Islanders.
Yeah, the Islanders were really bad in the beginning, but they had that draft class.
Yeah.
When they had that draft class that included all those greats, that's when everything started happening. The Islanders were actually on the verge of a Stanley Cup as early as '77.
Right.
They were already 100-point-plus a year team. They were excellent. The Rangers upset them in '79. The infamous John Davidson Rangers team that lost to the Canadians. They upset the Islanders, to get to the Stanley Cup Finals. That was a huge upset. So the Islanders were on the verge of being broken up. They were going to break up the Islanders, and then the GM, I think Bill Torrey, at the time, told ownership, "Listen, one more move. We'll get Butch Goring," and they wound up getting Butch Goring from the Kings, I believe, and kept the team intact. And the next thing you know, 1980, 81, 82, 83. My father was an Islander fan. I called him a traitor. because we were originally Ranger fans. He made me a Ranger fan when I was like 8 years old, 7 years old. I remember, Rod Gilbert and the goal of game line.
It was John Rattel, Vic Hatfield, and Rod Gilbert.
Yep.
Was
I
the
remember
gag
those
line.
days.
Yep.
So yeah, New York sports sucks, bro.
Yeah. Well, let's being it's Halloween. Let's do and we're a wrestling show. Let me give me a second here. We're going to talk about the 10 most ghoulish wrestlers of all time.
Ghoulish, because it's Halloween. Oh, okay.
Here we go. All right. The Boogeyman.
Those worms creeped me out. I don't know about you. That was some pretty creepy crap, man. I mean, that's part of your gimmick that you chew on worms. I always found him very unsettling.
Yeah, whacking himself with the alarm clock.
Dude.
The worms, I'm thinking, I don't care how much you got paid. That had to be disgusting.
Yeah, that's absolutely disgusting. He always made me unsettled. Very unsettling character, the Boogeyman. Yeah, I could see him being on a top 10. Why not?
All right, let's see. Yeah, we already got comments, and it might be jumping the gun here. Now, John Geller said Abdullah. I'm going to tell you, Abdullah was not on the list, but somebody that I thought, he was definitely an alternate.
Well, if you're talking fear factor, then other guys like George the Animal Steel. I mean, what the hell is that?
I used
Abdullah was scary as could be. I could see that.
I thought of Ed Farhat, the original Sheik, maybe with the fireballs.
Right. What about Mark Lewin? He wasn't exactly
the purple haze, right?
He wasn't exactly normal.
Well, let's see who we got as number 9. I think.
Ooh.
Even though he wasn't a wrestler. Oh yes, my Undertaker.
Benny, stop watching porn. Yeah, of course he belongs there.
I mean, who's creepier than Paul Bearer?
He's the best. Everybody loves him. There's a little Uncle Fester in him with shades on. I don't know about those folks at home if they can see what I see here, but it's almost like Uncle Fester with hair and a mustache. He's kind of creepy looking. He's creepy and he's kooky. You like what I did there?
Experienced Inuki. We all know Taker and Paul Bearer should be here. Kane as well. So let's see.
Okay.
Let's see who we got.
Okay.
Gangrel. Gotta put Gangrel in there, right?
The Brood, baby.
The Brood, right?
I'm a huge fan of the Brood, and I'm also a huge fan of Gangrel the person. He's awesome.
I met Gangrel at a gym in Port Richey with Luna about, I don't know, 18 years ago. You could not have met two nicer people.
Right.
Oh, my God. I was bowled over by how nice they were.
Just out of random, what were they in town for a show? I mean, how the hell?
No, I actually think because I saw them there more than once. I think that they lived in Port Richey. They lived close to me.
Okay.
But, I mean, always courteous, always would talk to you, friendly. Luna was a sweetheart. I mean, don't let that look scare you. Maybe she got on this list, maybe.
Never got to interview, obviously, Luna. But I'll tell you what, my memories of Gangrel, the first time we had him on, we met first for breakfast, right? And I'm such a freaking mark. At one point, I looked at Mike, I looked at Gangrel, and I'm like, vampires eat fruit cups?
Right?
It's just everybody started cracking up. Gangrel was like, yeah, I like my fruit cups. I'm like, vampires eat fruit cups. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Like, what a nerd you are, Pharaoh. Great guy, Gangrel.
Yes,
love that character. Love the character.
Absolutely. Drank blood. Let's see what we got next here. There we go. Somebody said Papa Shango.
What is wrong with me, man? You gotta help me out here. Papa Shango really unsettled me back in the day. What is it about? And I know he's known as it's a joke, and he gets like the what a give me a break category basically with him, but Papa Shango I found very unsettling. Why?
I mean, didn't he have that thing going on with the Warrior, and the Warrior was talking, and all of a sudden, like, slime was running down his head?
Yeah.
Papa Shango did that.
He was kind of creepy. I found him to be like Boogeyman sort of creepy. If he ate worms, oh my God, forget it. I might be forced to watch Star Trek reruns or something.
Now I could have maybe a little bit of help from the chat room, but didn't he become Kama Mustafa, the fighting machine?
Well, we all know what he became in the end, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, wasn't he the Godfather?
The Godfather, right?
I
Yeah.
mean, it says everybody climb aboard the Ho
The
train.
Ho
Oh yeah,
Train.
I could
Yep.
see that. I could see that today, huh, Benny?
Oh yeah. The Ho Train.
Once again, it's time for everybody to come aboard the
Ho
Ho
Train.
train.
Hall
Oh
of
yeah.
Famer, right?
Oh, the Godfather.
Yeah.
I, I love to go. By the way, in real life, oh my God, is this man big? Holy crap, bro! His arms, man.
Charles
Woo.
Wright. Yeah,
He
thank you,
is
John Gallagher. Thank you,
huge,
Charles
man.
Wright.
He's still in great shape too, bro. Oh my God, he doesn't have guns. He's got cannons. Amazing. Papa
And you
Shango
wouldn't
scared
you
the
wouldn't
shit out
think
of
of a
me.
guy like that when you think of like big arms. You're gonna think of a Hogan, Warrior,
Dude,
Luger. You wouldn't think of a Papa Shango.
I'm telling you. Oh my God. No, seriously. I've met enough of them in person to know that wow, he's really in shape still. I'm like, holy crap. Yeah, Papa Shango was always very unsettling.
Definitely creepy guy. All right, who we got next? Doink.
Oh,
Heel Doink.
boo, boo. Yeah, definitely. I can see why. Can you explain it to me though, Benny? What is it about clowns? Is it because Stephen King made it immortal with the masterpiece novel It? What is it about clowns that scares people so much? Because I never had a problem with clowns when I was a kid at a circus. So,
I mean, being I do a true crime podcast, and this is an episode I want to do in the future. How about
oh,
John
I,
Wayne Gacy, right? John
yeah,
Gacy,
yeah,
the killer
sure,
clown.
right.
What did they find? Like 33 bodies under the bottom of his house.
Yeah, that guy was really, really warped, and he looked like your friendly neighborhood fat guy. I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
just yeah,
I'm just describing him the way he looked, guys. Don't take it,
he's
you
the
know.
guy who ordered a pizza on lane 27, right? On the Wednesday night beer league,
Lane 27.
right? Lane 20, your pizza's ready.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That
But yeah, I think that's what
no,
started it for me.
I never had a problem with the clowns.
No, I
It's
mean,
funny,
I grew up with Bozo.
right? Okay, I could see that. You know what scared the crap out of me? You'll never believe it in a million years, but it's true. I somehow got separated from my parents. I couldn't have been more than 5. And we were at Atlantic City's boardwalk. And there's a kabillion people. It's summertime. And I'm really scared. I remember there were pinball machines nearby me. And all of a sudden, I see this giant walking peanut. It was someone in a Mr. Peanut costume.
Jeez.
I couldn't compute it. I had never seen, I didn't know what it was. I was like, it's a giant peanut. I'm like, is nobody else seeing this? I was I was like terrified. Clowns, they do nothing for me. No big deal.
Yeah.
A giant Mr. Peanut at the age of 5. Boy, did I cling to my father's leg when they found me because I had the brains to go to the PA system because my father said to me, he goes, if you ever get lost from us, you go to the information booth, they'll make an announcement. And I actually remembered that as a 5-year-old. I'm impressed with myself. But I did go to I was like, you got to help me. What's your parents'
Well,
name? You
Mike
know?
Mike was talking about starting a wrestling promotion. So the Monty and the Pharaoh Wrestling Association.
Yeah,
Maybe
what?
we could have the giant peanut.
This giant peanut. Do I get to hit it with a sledgehammer?
Absolutely, it's your idea.
All right, I'll consider it, but it sounds like a bomb. I'm not sure we should air that segment.
It's nuts. Right?
Very
All
good.
right, gotta have Jake on the list, right?
Well, I don't know who's scarier, the snake itself or Jake at Heroes of Wrestling. Yeah, of course. Why? I could see him being on the list. Why not?
Yeah.
The snake, was obviously. Look, Andre didn't like the snake, right? Andre was terrified.
Yeah, legitimately, right? I mean,
yeah. What about Randy?
But how gutsy was Savage to let him do that?
That was kind of crazy when you think about it. I don't.
I mean,
don't know why.
that thing was chewing his bicep up, wasn't it? I mean, legit.
Yeah, it was definitely clamped onto him. I mean, it couldn't have been pleasant, but all accounts over all these years, there's one thing that can't be debated about Macho Man was his work ethic and his willingness to do whatever it took to make a segment work. And the moment where the snake clamps in, was it Damien, right? When Damien clamps into Macho Man's bicep, look, some things you can't. There is no sleight of hand going on here.
No.
you know, uh, his promos were actually very, I guess, dry, deadpan, kind of scary in its own way too. He always meant business,
Yeah.
so I could see why he would be on the list. But
Ultimate.
without the snake though, Jake's not on this list. It's
Yeah.
Damien. So praise
Yeah.
to Damien.
Definitely Damien augments Jake. I agree.
Damien's the star here.
Yeah. Let's see. I had it. I had to add Kevin Sullivan as the.
Yeah, it'd be crazy not to.
Yeah. I mean, that guy wreaked havoc. I mean, what was Kevin Sullivan? 5'6"?
Yeah,
On a good day.
But he played like he was 8 feet tall. This always goes back to what Mike and I talk about, your aura. Kevin Sullivan played huge. Look, when Roddy Piper stood in front of Andre the Giant, I still believed there was a chance Piper could do something to get Andre down.
I agree.
You know what I mean? That's what Kevin Sullivan was. Kevin Sullivan was terrifying. Not too many heels can say that. He really pulled off the psycho bit quite well. Anthony Perkins would have been impressed.
I think half the wrestling fans in Florida thought the guy was Satan reincarnated.
Absolutely.
Even though he never used the term Satan.
No.
But I mean, he didn't really have to.
No. He did. Look, he was one of a kind. You'll never see anything like him ever again. And had the pleasure of meeting him several times. He was a great person to me, and was obviously a genius. The fact that Mike brings it up all the time, he might have been a better booker than he was a wrestler.
Yeah.
And he was a great wrestler. He's a first ballot Hall of Fame skating right in, kind of wrestler. But his mind was equally first ballot skating right in. I mean, there's not many of them in this business that can be so complete. And Kevin Sullivan absolutely deserves to be on this list. No
Good
doubt.
comment by Rick 71. The Army of Darkness gimmick in Florida was awesome indeed. I mean, you take a guy like Bob Roop, who had the personality of a number 2 pencil, and you make him make us sing.
Wait, is the number 2 pencil even sharpened yet? It's like the blunt end. You know what I mean?
When you get it out of the box before you put it to the sharpener.
Right. Wow, you're right.
But I mean, Mark Lewin, who really, made Purple Haze. I mean, what an ensemble. You got the Lock, right? You got the Woman, Fallen Angel.
Yeah. Yep. Everything about it, absolute perfection.
For a while there, they had Superstar Billy Graham was with them. Until Sullivan blinded him with that spike. And Billy Graham cut, which I think is one of the greatest promos in the history of professional wrestling, when he's lying in the desert with an eye patch.
Oh my God, bro!
And he, I will break the chains that bind me.
That is a great promo.
It gives me goosebumps.
That is one of the greatest promos ever.
Yeah,
right there. But you know what? Another thing too. Like, do you hear what you just said though? Previously, when he drilled the spike through his eye, the level of violence that Getting back to he was 5'6". He played like he was 8 feet tall. He's driving spikes into eyeballs. I mean, what are we talking here? His alleged physical limitations never got in his way.
You never thought about that when he was doing his thing.
Oh no,
never.
Oh no, not somebody to screw with, and definitely worthy of being on this list.
Great heel. Then Varsity Club later, and then Dungeon of Doom. The guy is like a wrestling legend, right?
He is, and a great person too,
and a great guy. Yeah. Who we got next here?
Oh,
of course, Katie Vick's other half.
Oh, did you have to?
I'm sorry.
Did you really have to do that just now? I mean, here I am thinking of how much I've learned to appreciate Kane over the years because I was not always like the biggest fan of Kane. I was never a hater of Kane, but I was never a big fan of Kane. Uh, that remained constant over the years, but the respect level for Kane got higher and higher. I don't know how it was for you, Benny, but for me, over the years watching Kane, you learn to respect somebody after a certain amount of time. It's like, all right, I got to give this man his due. You know, uh, he clearly deserves to be on anybody's top 10. His debut is one of the great debuts of all time. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, I thought when I first saw him, and I watched him a few times, I'm thinking the guy has a shelf life of maybe 6 months. And I mean, what was it, like 17 years?
Yeah. Yes. I hated, I'm a huge Kiss fan, so here's your synchronicity here. I hated when they took the mask off. I hated that. The original look that they gave him when he first takes his mask off was terrible. I
No,
don't
that
know.
was not good. Yeah,
Yeah, that was
definitely not good.
terrible. Over the years, obviously, you got to see what he really looks like. What he really looks like is frightening enough. All good.
Yeah, exactly.
you know, um, I have a lot of respect for him too. I mean, he's gone on to do a few things in politics
Oh my God,
as well. So
he's made done
yeah.
very well outside the wrestling world. All right,
Yep.
this is the runner-up, of course.
This is the runner-up.
Yeah,
The Undertaker is the runner-up.
this was a close one. Maybe I mean we might want to. I don't know.
Wow. No. Let's discuss the greatness of the Undertaker first, okay? I cannot think of anyone who encompasses Halloween and the other side being a Doors fan, than the Undertaker. My God, the lightning, the entrance. The entrance itself is a spectacle. I mean, everything, the undefeated streak, the fact that he was the locker room's, you want to say Derek Jeter, whatever you want to call it, he was the captain of that locker room for decades. His character, when he rolls his eyes up, a tombstone pile driver. My God, how many ghoulish references do you want?
How many times, like when he took a shot and he was laying there for a minute and he did that, he rose from the dead, literally.
We're sitting up. Yeah. This to me, I can't wait to see who's number one because this to me is number one. But
we can. And I mean, and the Undertaker had a 30-something year career. This guy's career was very short and sweet.
Okay. Wow. All right. He's not number one. He's definitely much lower, and I could see some people not even putting him on the list.
Really?
To me, which would be wrong. Look, there's a lot of Fiend haters out there. You haven't noticed? If you like on the internet, I mean, I don't spend all day on the internet, but I've seen it many times. This was the shitty part of they ruined him with Goldberg and all this other crap. Blah, 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 blah. The Fiend is rarely talked about in a positive way, at least on the internet from what I've seen. I think that it was brilliant. Tom Savini, collaborated with him, and that's The Evil Dead. It was great, but I was going to say, and as I said to you off air, Bray Wyatt, the Swamp character, was also very kind of haunting and horror somewhat in its own warped way. So, I mean, if you morph the two, his contributions are clearly top 10. One way or the other as far as all-time ghoulish things, because Bray Wyatt was definitely someone who came up with ghoulish ideas. Go ahead.
The Bray Wyatt character reminded me a lot of the Waylon Mercy, Danny Spivey character, which reminded me of whoever Robert De Niro played in that movie, which for the life of me, I can't think of the name of. And if anybody out there can help me out.
Okay. Yeah, because it's not coming to me either.
Because Waylon Mercy's character was very much, patterned after De Niro in the movie. And when I first saw Bray Wyatt, I thought, okay, here we go again.
Right.
Of course, like Bray Wyatt took it to the next level.
Right. Yeah, but to me, it's still The Undertaker. There's no way I'm putting Bray Wyatt above The Undertaker.
I will. Yeah, I cannot disagree. Because, I mean, you're talking about like over a quarter century of relevance. And I really think that he should have retired undefeated at WrestleMania. I didn't like Brock Lesnar beating him. That's just me, though.
I actually felt that it was going to happen. And I remember when it did happen, I was the only one in the room who was celebrating.
Really?
Yeah, because all things come to an end. You know, I didn't really.
Yeah, I guess definitely in wrestling, nothing's forever, right?
Yeah, you know, and I didn't feel like, you know, it was. Look, they didn't even realize it until they were deep into it. They like, wait a minute, you know, Vince himself didn't even realize it until they were deep into it. When did they start counting? Like 17 in a row, maybe? You know what I mean? When they started making it a thing where they were talking about it on the air. You know, it wasn't, I don't remember like, you know, and it's 11 times in a row now, The Undertaker. I don't remember it that way. So if anybody does remember, when did they actually start announcing on television, by the way, he's now 16-0. He's 17-0, blah, 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 blah,
Right.
blah, blah. You know what I mean? It was an amazing thing, obviously. His matches with Shawn Michaels, oh my God. But the character alone, resume aside, and look at the resume, you've said it. It's no one has it, The Undertaker's resume. But
legendary body of work.
But the character, The Undertaker, how much more Halloween can you get than that?
And even if he was gone for a couple of years, when you heard that gong,
oh God,
everybody went batshit. Like
absolutely,
every single time.
Yeah, yep, and they would today, if for any reason he would have come back. You know, they would today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, Mike's got an entry. Mario Mancini. We forgot him. I'm sorry, Mike.
Oh, he's horrifying.
Yeah, he really is. And the movie, thank you to John Gallagher, the movie was Cape Fear.
Oh, God, Cape Fear is twisted.
Yes.
Oh, it's so twisted. What a great film.
Yeah.
You know, that's the remake, right? Because there was the original one back in the 50s or something.
Original, yeah, John Gallagher. The original Cape Fear was better with Robert Mitchum.
Right.
Boy, De Niro did a great job, I thought.
Oh, I remember his that version. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
A twisted son of a bitch.
That was Nick Nolte, wasn't it? Was the what played that as well?
Nick Nolte. Wasn't he in The Police? Oh no, that was another blonde. Never mind.
Yeah. We forgot.
I'm definitely unfortunately pushing the Fiend up this list. You know, I don't have it in front of me. But
where would you put? I mean, maybe I think I was too generous. Where would you put the Fiend?
Well, I don't know. Who's a rattle them off super fast.
Let me go. Hang on. Let me see if I can go backwards here. Tell me where you stop.
He's behind. Keep going. Hmm. He's definitely above Jake, and he's definitely above Evil Doink. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, he's above Papa, sure. Yeah, he's above Gangrel, yes.
Are you saying above? So
yeah. So he's basically fifth, I think.
Okay. Yeah, Sullivan.
And I would by the way, I would put Kevin Sullivan ahead of Kane. But that's me. But that's me. Keep going.
Let's see. We'll go back here. You got Kane, you got Taker, and then you got the Fiend.
Nice.
Yeah, and somebody also mentioned Mankind, which I didn't even think of, I think he could have been on this list.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see that. Definitely. Not Dude Love though.
No. I like the shirts though.
Dude, I hated Dude Love. I don't know what's wrong with me. I just never got into Dude Love. Although I do remember the one night. Do you remember the one night? Did he do this in the Royal Rumble? He came out as all three of his personas.
Came like Cactus Jack, Foley, and Dude Love, or Mankind.
That was fucking great. That was great. I used to be a huge Mick Foley fan until recent times.
Yeah, I think he took too many shots to the head. I really did.
Yeah. I don't think he likes us too much. Oh well. I'm so sorry.
We'll get over it. So
yeah,
all right.
I'm sure he will.
James, let's wrap this one up because we got to come back here in
all right
15 more minutes. So
very good.
come back at 9 for the continuation of Thursday night with the Pharaoh and the Playa. Hopefully ESO. Jimmy, why don't you take us home?
You've been watching a Player in the Pharaoh. I guess that's what we called it last week. And until a few minutes from now, later.
Later.